What happens when Paul Heyman realizes the man standing across from him might be bigger, stronger, and more dangerous than the superstar he's already representing? Because right now, Bron Breakker may have a serious problem. Oba Femi didn't just defeat Brock Lesnar, he sent a message to the entire WWE locker room. And suddenly, Paul Heyman is standing between two monsters who could completely change the future of WWE. But here's the question nobody can ignore. Is Heyman's loyalty to Bron Breakker beginning to crack? If Heyman abandons the vision and chooses Oba Femi instead, we're not just getting a new alliance. We could be watching the beginning of one of WWE's most explosive betrayals yet. Welcome back to the Ringside Observer. I'm Guy. In this video, we're breaking down exactly why Paul Heyman's relationship with Bron Breakker could be falling apart, what Oba Femi's rise means for the vision, and why WWE might be setting up a massive showdown between two monsters competing for the most dangerous manager in wrestling. Grab some popcorn and get comfortable, because we've got a lot of dots to connect before this one's done. Let's get into it. Paul Heyman has built his entire career around one simple philosophy: power wins. And that's exactly why Bron Breakker made so much sense as his client. Bron is young, explosive, incredibly athletic, and carries the kind of intensity that makes him feel like a future centerpiece of WWE. Heyman didn't just see a wrestler. He saw an investment. He saw someone who could dominate WWE for years. That's the entire idea behind the vision. But then Oba Femi entered the picture. And suddenly Heyman has another problem. Because Oba isn't simply another rising superstar. He's different. The man has the size, strength, athleticism, confidence, and presence of someone WWE could potentially build an entire era around. And his victory over Brock Lesnar made that impossible to ignore. Think about what that means. Brock Lesnar has been one of the most terrifying forces in WWE history. And Paul Heyman knows exactly what Brock is capable of. So when Oba Femi defeats Brock and then essentially treats the beast like a warm-up, Heyman has every reason to pay attention. And that's where this story gets really interesting. Oba Femi doesn't seem interested in asking for permission. He doesn't appear desperate for anyone's approval. He walks into a room and carries himself like he already belongs at the top. And that is exactly the type of superstar Paul Heyman has historically been attracted to. But then came the confrontation with Bron Breakker. Bron knows what's happening. He can see the way Heyman looks at Oba. He understands what Oba represents. And that's why Bron confronting his own advocate could be one of the most important moments in this entire storyline. Because Bron isn't simply asking Heyman whether he likes Oba. He's asking a much bigger question. Are you still with me? And if Heyman can't answer that confidently, then Bron has every reason to be suspicious. Imagine spending months believing that Paul Heyman is helping you become the next dominant force in WWE, only to realize that your advocate might already be looking for your replacement. That's the psychological warfare that makes this storyline so interesting. And here's where Heyman's history becomes important. Paul Heyman has never been afraid to change sides when the circumstances demand it. He's worked with some of the biggest stars in wrestling history. He's been around Brock Lesnar. He's been associated with Roman Reigns. He's worked with CM Punk. And throughout those relationships, one thing has remained consistent. Heyman understands power. So the question isn't necessarily whether Heyman likes Bron Breakker. The question is whether Heyman believes Oba Femi has become the bigger opportunity. And if that's the case, Bron Breakker could be in serious trouble. Because imagine the moment Heyman finally makes his decision. Bron is standing in the ring. Oba is standing across from him. The crowd is waiting. Heyman walks toward Oba, and then he stands beside him. That one visual would instantly change everything. Bron would lose the man who helped guide him. Oba would gain one of the greatest strategists in wrestling. And suddenly, the rivalry becomes much bigger than two powerhouse wrestlers fighting for supremacy. It becomes Bron Breakker versus Oba Femi, with Paul Heyman in the middle. And honestly, that's the kind of storyline WWE could stretch all the way to WrestleMania. Because Bron wouldn't simply want to defeat Oba. He'd want to prove that Heyman made the wrong choice. Oba, meanwhile, would have Heyman's strategy behind his raw destruction. That combination could be terrifying. But there's another possibility. What if Heyman isn't actually planning to betray Bron at all? What if this entire situation is designed to make Bron paranoid? What if Heyman is secretly using Oba to push Bron harder? And what if the real plan is to eventually put both men under the same banner? That could be even more dangerous. Imagine Paul Heyman controlling both Bron Breakker and Oba Femi. Two monsters, one mastermind. A faction built around raw power and strategic intelligence. That could completely change the balance of power in WWE. And that's why this storyline deserves attention. Because right now, we don't know whether Paul Heyman is preparing to betray Bron Breakker, or whether he's preparing to create something much bigger. But one thing is becoming increasingly obvious. Oba Femi has Heyman's attention. And once Paul Heyman starts paying attention to a superstar, you better believe something major could be coming. So now I want to hear from you. Is Paul Heyman about to betray Bron Breakker? Should Heyman remain loyal to Bron and the Vision, or should he choose Oba Femi? And here's the biggest question. Who would be more dangerous with Paul Heyman in their corner, Bron Breakker or Oba Femi? Drop your prediction in the comments below. If you enjoyed the video, hit that like button, subscribe to the Ringside Observer, and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next WWE breakdown. I'm Kai. I'll see you in the next one.